But anyways, YouTube. So today I want to talk about the Sonic Ubers, since the Sonic collab is in fact in Battle Cats now. And they seem pretty decent, you know? They seem pretty decent. Sonic is, you know, the fastest unit in the game, tied with Shadow, who I will get to later. 95 movement speed. We have yet to go over 100, but I do believe going over 100 would be possible with combos. Except I don't know how speed-related combos work, so I have no idea. But 54-second recharge time, not a lot of HP. This is probably his biggest weakness, is that HP is fucking terrible. Like, that he's getting one-shot by a lot of things. He'll get one-shot by a lot of things. And he has no pierce, so he's not a piercing rusher, which means he'll probably honestly be worse than Earthshaker, Oni Earthshaker, aka Isun Boshi. But he is still a rebound unit. He does still have a lot of damage per hit, more damage per hit than Isun does, I believe. Plus, slow and knockback against Angels. I don't think a lot of people have really acknowledged these, but he's really good at pushing back frontline. So things like Borafim, Saint Dober, I think, and like a lot of other things. By the way, what the fuck got pissed on? Where did that come from, Blue Flame? Whatever. But yeah, so all of this while also being immune to freeze and slow. I don't know what being immune to freeze and slow really does for him, but they're there. But obviously massive damage is the main thing there. Dealing, what, 4 times? So 140,000 damage per hit against Angels. That's quite a lot of damage considering the rebound, but you'll probably not get all these knockbacks thanks to the super low HP, but he can still be very good. From what I can tell, he could be nice in a lot of, you know, things. It's 10% speed on small combos and 20%. Okay, so yeah, you could definitely pass 100 with this guy with ease. And then Tails. Tails is interesting. I think the biggest weakness with Tails is the traits it targets. Because, like, the fuck you mean you curse reds? Like, seriously? You curse reds? Why? Why is that the trait you're chosen to target? Aliens is fine with cursing, because, like, star aliens can warp, and normal aliens tend to have some sort of status. But red? And it's not even guaranteed? For curse? That's... The trait targeting is not adding up. But thanks to the explosion, it's 3,200 DPS. Effectively, with my calculations. Pretty short recharge time. Decent HP. Good survivability with the knockbacks, though. Not too fast, so it won't speed clip. And honestly, pretty short attack force swing. Long ass attack frequency, though. Lower that to 5 seconds and maybe it'll actually be good. Good standing range, though. My only worry is the lackluster damage, since it only weakens and curses. No massive damage or strong against. And also, curse against red is fucking terrible. Curse on red is like D'Artagnan's massive damage on metal. I think you overlook the fact that there's so many generalists that have strong against, massive damage, well, resist matters, but massive damage and strong against metals. I think you overlook the fact that things like Amaterasu, Gao. Well, I guess Gao has crit. That's besides the point, though. Normally, his strong against doesn't do anything. Well, I guess strong against gives bonus HP. But D'Artagnan is not the only one with massive damage against metals, is what my point is. Did you say not too fast? 15 speed's not a lot. It's not even Rusher. If we classify Rusher as 20, then that's, you know, this is not too fast. What are you questioning me on? Why? What did I say wrong? How can? What do you mean? He's not going to be speed clipping. That's what I was trying to say. 800 speed is 15 is slow. I'm so lost. Whatever. Knuckles. Knuckles is thought to be one of the better ones, right? I mean, 35 movement speed is still pretty fast. Actually, I think we're talking about Tails. Never mind. Yes, we were talking about Tails. But Knuckles has about an average recharge time, mid-ranger, standing range, rapid fire attacks, kind of like Trixie, actually. 50 Pierce with the Omni Strike. I actually always forget about this, but you know, yeah. You're number one dart defender. I know. He's immune to waves, which can be nice, especially for Reds because of Berserk Quarry, and immune to weaken could be nice for Hanya. So that's actually really nice. And weaken can also allow for him to not be punished so badly from Zraka. What the fuck is the zombie Croc's name? I don't know, but that thing weakens, and so him having immunity to that and strong against allows for him to have 150,000 HP against Reds and zombies, and 1200 DPS against them. However, I'm going to eventually make a video talking about how Trixie is overrated, because a lot of people talk about how good Trixie is and stuff. However, for right now, I'm just gonna say he has the same problem as Trixie. He has the same problem as Trixie. The design is great, but he's not actually that good in the grand scheme of things, and he has a lesser extent of what Trixie's problem is, which I'll talk about in a separate video, probably sometime later, like this weekend or something. Knuckles is like, if Thunderjack actually had Zombie Killer. That's actually kind of true. And also specialist damage. And also, Knuckles also has area attack. That's not something to forget with something. Yeah, don't forget about that. The red targeting is kind of because Reds are so power crept. But targeting Zombie is, you know, good. Knuckles can't compare, to be honest. Against Jack, they have similar DPSs against Reds and Zombies. I'd say the only difference really is recharge time. I think the recharge time is in Thunderjack's favor. Thunderjack's not that good though. He has single targeting, and so like against stages with, you know, hordes, you know, he could struggle, because like something not a lot of people realize is that a lot of times there is something that's going to sneak in front of what you want to attack quite a bit, causing you to miss. And so like you're like, you know, but okay, so to talk about what I actually mean whenever I say he has the same problem as Trixie, is that he's a rapid fire unit. Same problem goes to Thunderjack. Their DPS is insanely high, but because that's assuming that they're constantly attacking. If you want more information about this kind of thing, watch what's Lucas's video talking about Bahamut. His video where he talks about the old nuker Bahamut, right? Thunderjack is not that good. He's not that good after early game. Early game is when he shines. After that, he's kind of mid. He's good in the same stage as Balrog. Wrong, because Thunderjack's a rusher and he's rapid fire. Balrog is good for single hits that deal a lot of damage. Thunderjack is good for clearing and doing a consistent small amount of damage. But anyways, I want to talk about this. High damage per hit is actually better than rapid fire. Want to know why? Because this DPS is actually a lot less in actual use than it looks. Because this is his attack frequency, this DPS, it's all factoring in and assuming that he's constantly attacking, which most of the time he won't be. He'll either be walking or he'll be missing, because sometimes you start an attack, especially with multi-hit, and you'll knock something back and the next 2 hits don't hit. And like, yes, with 350 range, that is kind of less of a problem. But that is something to consider, is that you aren't actually getting the entirety of this DPS the entire time. Actually, most of the time you're missing a lot of that DPS. And Trixie has that same problem, but worse because of the way her freeze is. But that's something I'll talk about whenever I'm specifically talking about Trixie. Not to mention you're juggling things. You're not skipping any knockbacks with this. So if you want to actually kill things quickly, this is not the way to do it. Just, you know, it's overlooked because not a lot of people really think about it, but a good way to know what I'm talking about is by watching Lucas's video about Bahamut, the original nuker or whatever. Thunderjack is mega good in ZNL, not as a generalist though. Yeah, he still has his niche usage, but unlike Balrog, he doesn't actually work very well in a lot of stages. Do not compare Thunderjack and Balrog. That is a huge downplay to Balrog. Thunderjack is great against majority of zombies. He doesn't even have zombie kill. I know. Just re-kill it. That's not convenient though. Because like, what if Thunderjack dies and then what? Then you'll actually have to kill the zombies, and at that point you're just wasting your own time. because they will revive unless you manage to speedrun the base kill. Which Thunderjack's damage, I mean, without much I guess with investment, maybe I'm wrong about this, but his damage is kind of underwhelming. Because he does only have single targeting. And his DPS is good, no doubt. But with his range, his single knockback, and his, you know, a lack of actual good niche aside from knockback, it's not... He's really not that good after early game. As somebody that has him and has used him after early game, he's really only good in a niche amount of stages. But anyways, time to move on to Shadow. Shadow has massive damage to Black and Zombie. Massive damage to Black isn't really that necessary. But Zombie, with Zombie Killer, could be nice. 95 movement speed. This is the reason why I think he's kind of overrated. It's kind of... I do believe him to be overrated. Because, like, you may say, oh, his HP is fine for having 520 range. Or, oh, his damage is really good for having 520 range. And he doesn't have the multi-hit problem that Knuckles has. But he does have a survivability issue. Yes, he has quite a few knockbacks, but he only has 42,000 DPS, or HP. That's as much HP as D'Artagnan. And just like D'Artagnan, he does not have any sort of, you know, defensive abilities. His recharge time is actually, I think, worse. His knockback count is actually one worse. And his damage is, you know, not a lot per hit. Zombies can easily burst to Shadow and one-shot him. That's not the problem I'm talking about. You guys know how people talk about Cosmo, one of Cosmo's problems being speed clipping? You guys know that, right? No, he doesn't have any, like, time... Like, yes, he is a rebound... Shadow is a rebound unit, right? So he doesn't have to worry about, like, you know, the cannon getting him in or whatever. However, his speed allows for him to speed clip. I know. Speed clipping in a different sense than Cosmo, though. I know Lucas talked about it. Let's see. No, that's not... Fucking hell, man. I can't type for the life of me. So Lucas the Fourth, speed. Taking advantage of a unit's speed. Or something. One of these videos. How speed affects standing range. This is it. This is the video that you should be looking at if you want to understand why I think Shadow is overrated. This is going to effectively give him probably somewhere closer to 450 range, or 400, which is still a good amount. But I don't think it's... at that point, I don't think it's enough to justify having such low HP. Especially since his HP isn't that much. Like, as somebody that loves D'Artagnan, this is not a lot of HP. And considering he only targets Black and Zombies, mixed stages are going to be rough for him, because his damage against anything other than Black and Zombies is actually kind of mediocre. Not even at that, honestly. Like, it's actually very subpar. So in mixed stages, he'll suffer. And against stages that have Lenoir, you may think he'll do well because he technically outranges, but who knows if he'll actually outrange, because his movement speed is simply so high that there's a good chance it'll, you know, speed clipping cause him to effectively have much less range. And so, like, there's not a great chance that he'll actually have 500 range for most of the time. So people look at this 500 range and they're like, oh, Dahlia-san has 510 range, so Shadow must be amazing since Dahlia-san's amazing, or something like that. But Shadow's not actually going to have that much range. For his targeted traits, I think it's fine, because the only zombie that would outrange him, or that he would be weak to, would probably be the Henry. And the only Black he would probably struggle against is Lenoir. However, you know, there is still, like, Toucan, you know? Speed clipping can sometimes act like Omni. Sure. But considering how low Shadow... Like, that's mostly beneficial if you have the range to sacrifice, right? And, you know, the HP to recover. Shadow doesn't have that. Shadow is actually, if he gets hit once by any Lenoir in the game, I think he gets probably one shot. If not one shot, he gets very low from one hit. So, and that's the main black that he's of threat to. Again, black and zombies, thanks to those targeted traits, I don't think it matters that much. But it is still something to consider. He's not going to... Don't consider him as a super backliner with his 500 range. Think of him as maybe a backliner, a backlining rusher somehow, you know? I do think that he would get clapped, though. Not to mention, his HP is still lackluster. So all the people that say, oh, D'Artagnan sucks because he has low HP, Shadow is still held to that same standard, bitch. But his immunities are nice, though. Slow and Toxic. I mean, Toxic's really only good for Zolo, which he should outrange. Thanks to his standing range, he should outrange the Omni Strike of Toxic. But at the same time, speed clipping could, you know, be different or something. I don't fucking know. But he really is just... He's effectively a rusher, but with a lot of range, which is weird. But he also has rapid fire. Like, it's his build. His build is like a combination of a bunch of different things. It's like looking at the amalgamation that you see after giving a child 10 different buckets of different colored Play-Doh. Like, that's what Shadow is. Like, he's just an amalgamation of a bunch of different types of builds and classifications of units together to make one blob of what the fuck do I do with this unit? Like, Shadow is just such a weird unit that without using him, you probably won't know how the hell he'll actually turn out. Because it depends so much on how he actually works in a stage to see whether or not he's actually good. But like, you know, I don't have him. The collab just came out in EN, so, you know, who the fuck knows. But we'll just have to, you know, we'll have to see how that goes. X-Skull glazes his speed, says it makes him more versatile and somehow not a liability. Well, X-Skull is known for not having great takes, so don't think he does shit against Oldstritch. Probably not. I mean, even with the immunity to Toxic, I think he kind of gets destroyed, because how much damage does Oldstritch do? It's not a small amount. Ignore the fact that I have the same thing as stick drift on my fucking mouse. He still gets 2-shot by Oldstritch at level 30. So, like, you know, Shadow, but here's the thing, right? These are collab Ubers, so you definitely shouldn't consider them as, like, end-game Ubers. But even for early game, the only real usage I see out of Shadow is just destroying zombies. But at the same time, he's not a normal rusher because he doesn't have high damage per hit like most rushers. He's a rapid-fire rusher with a lot of range and almost too much speed. But at the same time, his recharge time is kind of long for a rusher. And I mean, you know, like, he's just so weird. I can't tell if he's going to be good or bad. I can't tell. I can't tell. Well, why don't you clean it yourself, you know? Fucking Vine lovers. You should know what I'm saying here. Good point with Oldstritch, but you aren't using level 30 units in ZL. I know, but, I mean, even at level 40 or 50, like, let's look at level 50 real quick. Like, because you're not using Dark Eyes on this guy. Even at level 40, he gets 3-shot. Like, or, sorry, not even at 40, 50. At level 50, he still gets 3-shot. With, on an Oldstritch, another rapid-firing enemy. You know? However, he could, you know, and if he was a normal rusher with high damage per hit, then you could say, oh, well, he gets knocked back and he gets a lot of damage in. Per hit, he does 20. How much damage is that? Multiply that by 4. He does 30,000 damage per hit. He does. That's not that much for a rusher. It's not much at all. Sonic does 4 times that against Angels. And you're telling me, like, he's just such a weird unit. The only Toxic unit that he can work against is Zolo, and at that point, he shouldn't even be getting him hit by the Toxic in the first place. So, like, it's just so... I don't know. It's so hard to know how good this unit will be. Which is why I'm not getting hasty with saying, oh, he's so good, or oh, he's so bad. Because, like, I just simply don't know. This is one of those units where you really will just have to use him in order to find out. And he probably will just be fun using, like you said, Dodo. That's literally what he'll have to be. It's just like, he's an experiment. He's an experiment. I like that they're bringing out unique units, but he may not be that good. Experiments don't always end well. What is his attack animation? Can I even... Let's see. What the fuck? I'm not much of a Sonic fan, or watcher, or player, or whatever, but what the fuck is that attack? He uses light? He just became licked from fucking Black Clover. What the hell? You're telling me he attacks with light? Spears of... What the fuck? What? Okay, now I'm even more lost, but whatever. YouTube, I think I've done enough ranting about the Sonic Ubers, so... Stream. I will keep streaming. This is specifically for YouTube. YouTube, if you did enjoy it, please do come back for more. And I'll see you in the next one. Peace.